Quick anime recap. In a hospital, someone is living their last moments and finally passes. It turns out to be the last memory of this man, Machio Hiraku, on Earth. He walks out of his room and goes around greeting his many wives and villagers that live together with him. Everyone acknowledges him as the chief of the village, and he reflects on how much it has grown.
本当にあの頃の俺は思いもしなかっただろうな。こんな夢みたいな暮らしをするようになるなんて。
The story goes back to after his passing on Earth. His spirit meets the god of this world, and the god apologizes for the terrible life Hiraku lived, having to face many betrayals before dying of terminal illness. The god feels responsible for the short life he lived, and offers him a second chance to live in another world. The god promises him a body that cannot fall ill, and will take any additional requests to allow him to live freely. Like any Japanese main character would, Hiraku requests to live in an isolated location without people, to try his hand at farming. In his last moments, he had been watching farming shows, and had a longing to try it too. The god quickly negotiates with the god of agriculture, and they bestow him the almighty farming tool, before sending him on his way. Hiraku wakes up to find himself in the body of a young adult, in the middle of the woods. He finds great happiness in being able to move his body for the first time in many years.
ここで第二の人生を、念願の農業生活を始めるぞ。
As he scouts out his surroundings, all that he sees is a boundless forest. He feels that his request was taken too literally, as not only would people not come often, civilization probably won't reach this place at all. Remembering the gift the gods gave, he tries his hand at summoning the almighty farming tool. Hiraku quickly realizes that while using the tool, he never feels exhausted. Obstacles are quickly plowed through without issue, and the quality of his work is always excellent. Following this, he wishes to solve the issue of food and water, and listens for flowing streams nearby. Nothing but the trees exists around him. He also realizes he might not be the only living thing in the forest, and rushes to secure a home for himself. He finds a ginormous tree in the distance, and uses it as a landmark and center for his base camp. There were no sources of water nearby, so he decides to look for it using 2 sticks as dowsing rods. Seems more like ghost hunting to me. He gives up on this, and decides to dig deep to search for water instead. Hiraku also tests the limits of the almighty farming tool and realizes it cannot transform into any complicated machines, limiting him to simple tools. Digging straight down wasn't such a good idea. He didn't fall into lava, but now he's stuck. He changes tactics and switches to digging diagonally instead, and he finally struck some water. After all that work, Hiraku finally realizes his body doesn't go hungry, and he goes about the rest of the day to clear up the area around the tree. Seeing a tree in the way, he planned to systematically cut it down, but when he tries it out, attributing everything to the almighty tool, he quickly shaves the trunk into usable blocks of lumber. Hiraku failed to notice the passage of time, and still did not have a lodging, nor a fire for the night. He quickly dug into the tree instead, and carved out some utensils for his everyday use. Current update on his progress. One sleepless night later, Hiraku quickly got some wood shavings together, and created a magnifying glass to produce a fire. Next he continued to clear out the surrounding area, but he couldn't help wonder about eating. And speak of the devil, food came running right at him. He makes use of the rabbit meat to refill his stamina, and even uses the leftovers as nutrients for the soil. The taste isn't the best, but food is food. What goes in has to eventually come back out, so Hiraku created an open toilet for his use. Of course, without walls, he felt rather exposed. so he built a hut around it. He spent the entire day plowing the ground into usable soil for his future field. But he realizes a bit too late that he doesn't even have any seeds to plant. Feeling dejected, Hiraku goes rest for the night, but wakes up to find that plants have sprouted in his field. He infers that the almighty farming tool might have done something, and quickly builds a fence to protect the perimeter. He goes one step further and even builds a ditch in front of the fence to prevent unwanted entries. Like this, much time has passed. Many rabbits were sacrificed, and Hiraku has fallen into the routine of farming. The plants here grow much faster than normal, and hopefully they'd grow into something edible. He eventually built himself a small hut by stacking grooved wood together, and by using tree bark for roofing. One day, he sees a pair of roughed-up dogs. Pitying their appearance, he invites them inside and feeds them the boar meat he got from fighting valiantly to protect his farm. The moment he realizes one of them has a swollen belly is the moment she goes into labor. Thinking quickly, he gives up his hut to the pair, and in consideration of them, places a fire nearby to keep them warm for the night. He spends the night feeling worried and helpless for the dogs. In the morning, he cautiously enters the hut to witness the blessings of Mother Nature. He continues to bribe the pair with food, and the family has no thoughts of leaving him. They became responsible for hunting animals and protecting his farm, and he eventually gave the family names to call them by. Hiraku would rebuild his home next to their hut, and the plants he initially grew finally bore tomatoes. There's still a lot to do at the farm, but Hiraku decides to take his sweet time to do it. One last progress check. On the other side of the forest, in a small town, a girl is having her meal at an inn. The manager talks to her about the forest of death nearby, which is full of incredible monsters that could devastate the town if even one entered.
ちょうどいいかもね。